and welcome to the AVForums podcast, streaming live on Sunday, the 2nd of August, a brand new month. So that means we need to look back at July, and that's what we'll be doing tonight with Steve Withers.
Put the pick in here, Pete, and turn it round real neat.
Ed Selley.
A beginning is a very delicate time.
Kaz Harlow.
I must rule with eye and claw.
And our 12-year-old YTSer, who seems to be on major sync at the minute, Tom Davies.
I'm massively out of sync. That's not a quote from the film.
Actually, you were in sync for me there, so we'll watch that back and see how out of sync you were. Welcome back.
Hang on. What's his quote? Given that both you and I could literally quote the entire film, pick something good.
We call it Muad'Dib.
Okay, we are streaming once again. Thanks for joining us. And if you're catching up with the podcast after the live stream, welcome to you as well. We do realise that not everybody can join us on the Sunday evening as we go live. Also, you can listen to the audio-only version of the podcast if you're out walking the dog and so on, and you can't look at us. That's probably an advantage. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, as well as other podcast providers. And once again, thanks very much for listening. As always, we'll have a Q&A this evening, but it is the end of the month, so we'll be covering all of our favourite TV, music, movies, and other things that happened in July. We'll look back and pick our best. Won't be much from me. I haven't done much. Also, please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are watching us on YouTube right now. Really important that you hit the like button. So if you do like our show and you're feeling generous, please hit the like button. It really does help us out. And if you do appreciate the forums, the editorial content, what we do here, you can also join us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/AVForums. If you want to automatically support us for £3 a month, you can head over there and sign up. You can also donate directly, a one-off, or if you want to ask a question, it's usually the best way to do that and get our attention to your question. And that's streamlabs.com/AVForums. And we do have a new patron from last week. I'm wondering if this is the same one that we keep mentioning every week. James Cameron, well done. Thank you for joining us.
The James Cameron.
It's somebody called James Cameron. We know that.
I should imagine it's not James Cameron after the amount of grief I've given him about the Abyss over the last year.
I don't know. I think he's just doing it to annoy you now, Steve.
He's maybe trolling you, Steve.
I tell you what, if Cameron's giving me cash, he can do whatever he likes.
Okay.
I've no shame. Whatever you want, Jim, give it to me. Every man's got his price, and mine's pretty small.
Yeah, we know that. And also, Ken donated £5 last week, but it was after the cut-off. We'd already wrapped up. So thank you, Ken, for your £5. He says no technical question this week, and there's not one this week either because he's not going to be here. He's going to watch and listen in, but he's not participating, so there won't be any questions for us to miss this week. Also, if you do feel inclined to support us with donations and so on, you are helping us grow AVForums, improve the site's speed and features, help us produce more editorial content. And Tom's Thumbs is a new thing. Really shocking name but I think it works, Tom.
Who came up with that one?
Tom did himself, so at least he's only got himself to blame.
Really? Oh, there you go. Terrible as possible. Awesome.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that, Tom does his little videos now where he's going to tell us what's coming up on streaming services to watch in August. The first one's up for Netflix. Yeah, go watch it. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think. And we'll obviously take that feedback on board. And if Tom can, he'll introduce it into future videos. Right, I think that's all the housekeeping done for this moment in time. So thank you very much for your support if you are supporting us. Current competitions, your chance to win some goodies. I've got two movies content providers that I could pick this week. Who am I going to pick? Kaz, we haven't heard from you yet. Kaz, just competitions.
You can win a copy of Gangs of London Season 1 on Blu-ray. Closes 18th of August. Win a copy of Story of a Love Affair on Blu-ray. It closes 11th of August. A Rainy Day in New York on Blu-ray, 18th of August. Got New York in there somehow. Vagrant Queen Season 1 on Blu-ray, 4th of August. Criterion's July titles. On Blu-ray, that's 4th of August, and we're also doing the podcast exclusive competition at the end, so stay tuned for that. All competitions open to eligible AVForums members resident in the UK. Did I mess up any more lines than that?
Well, we'll find out.
I think
I
you
think
missed
you could have messed up
Pennyworth
more.
altogether.
I did. Pennyworth closes 4th of August. You can win that as well.
So yes, in other words, you can, and we're only 5 minutes in. Who knows how far we can sink?
Oh, this. I can just. I've got. I feel it in my water. It's gonna go.
It'll be a good one, yeah.
Previous competition winners, Kaz.
Yeah, Ginger24 won a copy of The Last Waltz on Blu-ray. Andy Clark won a copy of The Invisible Man on 4K. Strive DY74 won a copy of Laughter in Paradise on Blu-ray, and S. Collingwood won the podcast exclusive copy of Jumanji: The Next Level on Blu-ray.
And what was so exclusive about that?
You can only win it by listening to the podcast.
Okay, and do we have a similar competition this week, Kaz?
We do, yes. Yes, we're running one later. It's Dr. Sleep.
Okay, we'll do that later on then. We don't have a star this week to talk about at the end because it is obviously end of the month, and I think we've got plenty to be talking about. I'm just hoping that Steve never ever Googles me or looks me up at all, because it happened again this week, Steve, didn't it?
It did. I'm not making this up. On Tuesday, it was. In fairness, it started with Oliver Stone, so his days are probably numbered at this point. But I was looking at Oliver Stone, and I thought, oh yeah, he wrote Midnight Express, didn't he? And I was looking at Alan Parker's back catalogue. I thought, you know what, I'm going to order Midnight Express on Amazon. That's a great film. So I ordered Midnight Express. It arrived on Thursday, and then he died on Thursday. So yes, I jinxed yet another, leading light of the film industry. But sadly, Alan Parker has passed away. And I've got to say, I looking through his back catalogue, it's a fantastic back catalogue of really interesting and diverse films. I'd forgotten just how much quality stuff he did and how they're all different. He never did the same thing twice. But what a talented guy. Also, I have to say, a very talented cartoonist. I've got a book of his cartoons about the film industry signed by him, and which is now obviously worth a bit more money. Now he's dead, but really funny. I won't be selling it. I love it. It's a really funny collection of cartoons. Talented guy, and as I say, an amazing back catalogue of movies. I mean, you go think like Bugsy Malone, Fame, Birdie, Angel Heart, Midnight Express.
From Bugsy Malone to Angel Heart is just wow.
He did some really good stuff. Like, I mean, Come See the Paradise is a little known film of his, but it addresses an interesting subject, which is the internment of Japanese during World War II in the United States. So he did some difficult subjects and interesting subjects, and he was a quality filmmaker. And I mean,
he also did The Commitments, which blew up in '91. It was a huge film for a very small budget.
Love that film. Like I say, an incredibly talented man who did an amazing body of work. I mean, to be honest, if I'd made one of those films, I'd be proud. But to make that many different and quality movies is really quite impressive.
No, everyone has an off day. Everyone has an off day. So
you weren't also watching Hard Target, were you, Steve?
Well, am I jinxing Jean-Claude Van Damme?
No, Wilford Brimley.
No, I didn't jinx Wilford Brimley. That was nothing to do with me.
That's on his own work.
but the only film I really know.
You're actually going to admit to it. I mean, if you genuinely have the IMDb of death.
Wilford Brimley will always be Blair in The Thing to me.
Yeah,
so I might watch that tonight.
If you ever watch any of the interviews with Wilford Brimley about being Blair, they are maybe even more entertaining than watching The Thing. Like he is really into it. For a guy who's essentially like a good old boy, he's well into being in this like sci-fi craziness. It's good.
Also in The Cocoon, I think, wasn't he? So,
yes, he was, and that led to the sort of calculation of because he appeared in Cocoon, fundamentally as a senior citizen. And now you've got people like Matthew McConaughey the same age as Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. Yeah,
he's Tom Cruise in Oblivion was the same age as Wilford Brimley in Cocoon.
I think, these were hard, people aged faster in the old days,
Yeah, maybe.
Harder times.
Maybe he needed the stuff out of Cocoon to keep him young.
I've got to say, you say that, Kaz, but with your new background there, it's highlighting just how grey you're going on top.
Oh, I'm super grey, yeah. I'm super grey, yeah.
It's because you've normally got sun flowing through the hair, you see. We don't pick up on it normally.
I'm auditioning for a remake of Collateral.
Okay.
Just as long as you don't die on a tube train. Spoilers, at the end of it. So,
You been up to anything else this week, Steve?
Mostly just work. Plus, I spent most of today piling into a thread on Kamara's review of Black is King, just because I can't believe how many people can moan about a 10 out of 10 to score without ever actually having watched a film. It's pretty like, how dare you give it 10 out of 10? Well, A, that's her opinion, and B, have you actually watched it? Well, no, but so shut up then.
You can believe it on the forums, though.
But it was so pleasing to see the reasonable voices of the forum come out in force today. Good for them.
And it was.
I won't say which side.
I
don't want to lose any subscribers, but yeah, lovely.
It's always nice to see Steve's replies as well, because it's kind of totally unrestrained. Get out of here, you idiot!
Did
I took that one down.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They
I
didn't
read
all
it first.
stay, did they, Steve?
I came back with something longer and a bit more well thought out.
Yes.
If you
it's just it ultimately becomes funny, but because you realise that these people haven't even seen it, it's like, okay. I'll tell you what though. We'll come back to it later, but some of her 10 out of 10 scores have been quite useful recently, because I would never have watched Hamilton had she not scored it 10 out of 10, and I absolutely loved Hamilton. I thought it was brilliant. And hip hop is not my cup of tea, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
I can see what the fuss is about.
I need to obviously watch that, as well as a million other things I don't normally watch. I'm just picking up on what's happening in the chat. Good to see everybody on the chat this evening. Thanks for joining us. There's plenty of you out there. I don't know. Yes, James Cameron is watching. He said good evening to you. So we don't know if it is that Jim or not. But
we want the abyss.
Jim will fix it. Oh, shouldn't have said that.
No.
Right. We've got lots of the usuals in there, but people are mentioning that there is a sync issue for those watching the video. Hopefully audio only. There shouldn't be any issues, because you don't need to see our lips moving for that. Unfortunately, it seems to be something with Skype, and it's out of our control at the moment.
We've spent a week chasing it down. And it isn't chased yet, I'm afraid, but we're working on it.
Yeah, so we'll try and work that out. Obviously, unfortunately, you'll just have to put up with the fact that I'm the only one that's in sync,
and the rest of us are like badly dubbed kung fu characters.
Well, it's fine if you're listening to us and not looking at the images, which is probably a better experience anyway.
Yeah, far better experience. Tom, what have you been up to this week?
Not much really. Yeah, work, making this gosh darn video for YouTube. I think I took a fair few cracks at it, and I thought
it was really good for somebody who obviously you haven't had any training or anything like that for sitting in front of a camera, and you wouldn't be able to tell that. You came across really quite natural and very, very funny. I know that hope the other guys have watched it, so they can give you some feedback on it. But I thought it was really good. So if people have watched it, give us your feedback. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Because there's lots more coming, isn't there?
For sure. And if you want us to make it better, then like and subscribe and hit the bell.
Ring the bell.
I can't get the theme tune out of my head. It's driving me nuts.
What theme tune?
Tom's theme tune.
Oh, Tom's Thumbs.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think, Tom, you need to give us a rendition of that. So
no, not now.
3, 2, 1, off you go.
No thanks.
It's really
Well
great.
played.
It's a really, really great. Tom's thumbs. They're the thumbs that know a lot.
Yeah, they surely are.
It's fantastic. It's really it's sung in the style of Spider-Man, the original TV series theme song.
It's legally distinguishable from that, Kaz.
Okay,
yeah. And the other thing, Kaz, is he does it with feeling.
Yes, he does. I didn't do it with as much feeling because I wasn't going to, but yes.
Are you going for the thumbs up, thumbs down thing that
he did no thumbs?
Steve hasn't watched your video.
He gave something no thumbs.
Yeah, the very first thing.
Yeah,
as soon as I thought of this idea of like thumbs up or thumbs down, straight in with a movie that is looks fine.
If it's that, you should use what they did in Hollywood Shuffle. I'd give that the finger.
So yeah, that was fun.
I suppose at least with streaming services, thinking about it, you can do that. It's not like they can block you from sending you advanced copies or anything like that. It just turns up and you say, this is absolute chud.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose it all works after a fashion.
Yeah, and it's just a guess, you know. It's just me looking through titles, looking through who's involved, who's written it, who's directed it, etc., and taking a gamble on this will probably be.
It's not really a gamble, though,
some
is
of
it?
your
If it's Netflix and Amazon, because they're all crud, really. You get the odd hidden gem, but
Extraction.
It had me wondering though, where did all this crap used to go before there were streaming services to dump it on?
Straight to video.
Was it just
Sci-fi,
DVD?
the sci-fi
Yeah,
channel.
sci-fi. Yeah,
Straight.
yeah.
well, I mean, Kaz did a review of Deep Blue Sea 3. I didn't even know there was a Deep Blue Sea.
No, nor did
2.
I. That was
No,
a
no.
surprise.
I mean, don't see Deep Blue Sea 2, but I heard that Deep Blue Sea 3 was watchable, and I thought "Wait, there's a Deep Blue Sea 2, like you say, and then I heard that Deep Blue Sea 2 was unwatchable. I had to give it a shot, but it is true, it is unwatchable. But the third one's all right.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, high praise indeed.
And it comes in a 3-pack with all 3 Deep Blue Seas, and I have to say I'm looking forward to rewatching the first one for utter B-movie nonsense.
Yeah. Tom, what happened between that picture and now?
What picture?
Oh, Stuart's taking it away. Stuart?
The one that was in your profile thing. Although, to be fair, I don't look anything like the one in mine, so I'm not going to get on my high horse here.
Tom's
There you
got
go.
a beard in the picture, so he looks like his dad.
I
Never
used
mind.
to. I used to be a very handsome man once upon a time, if you can believe it.
I was still married in my profile picture.
Is that something you can tell from the picture?
I don't know, actually. I mean, I did shoot it in black and white, which is always a bad sign, you know, that I don't have a great deal of confidence in general appearance, but, you know, that's...
History Amazing says, hey, Tom, I liked it. Maybe you could work on putting more items in the videos, 5 good, 5 bad. Basically, the idea at the minute is just to do what's coming up on the streaming services, but I'm sure, like everything, it could expand beyond that.
Mission creep.
Yeah. We, there's something to be said for it being short and sweet. I think you don't want to, especially as one of the comments on the video currently is too much talking.
He wants you to cover it.
Signing.
More thumbs. More
Yeah.
thumbs.
What's coming up on the streaming services by the medium of dance?
Yeah, to be fair, there's one of them that you don't give any thumbs to. So I did miss some thumbs there. I'm just saying, maybe that's what he meant.
We've
He
already
didn't mean-
discussed that. I said he should give it the finger instead.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he gave no thumbs to one, as in he actually said no thumbs, but one he didn't give any thumb signal. There wasn't an up, down, or nothing.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
someone
You have to
suggested you
do
do
one thing,
a
Tom. Give it a
Zangief-style
thumbs up.
straight thumb.
Yeah.
mate. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this is basically turned into the vocal version of what a thread would be on.
Yeah.
You gave it what? How dare you?
10 out of 10. Are you mad? I'll
Two
tell you what,
thumbs up.
I would give David Lynch's Dune 10 out of 10. And I suspect, with the possible exception of Tom, I'm the only person likely to do that.
Well, yeah, but this is where the rich vein of subjectivity starts to make itself felt. We
Yeah,
can't
exactly, yeah.
can't do Rec 2020 checks on everything. Fundamentally, sooner or later, your opinion is going to make itself felt.
What
Can't
is art? I don't know. I went round a Tate Modern once, and I'll tell you what, my definition of art is something I can't do. So a pile of bricks is not art.
Yeah, it's all subjective at the end of the day. But well done, Tom. Looking forward to more of these videos, and they should be coming up soon because you've still got the other streaming services to do for August. So looking forward to that. Right,
Yeah.
Kaz, what you been doing?
Well, I
Intrigue himself.
ventured out with the kids to IKEA. Now, this is a momentous occasion because I think in the entirety of lockdown, we've never been anywhere together indoors, public.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. So well, it was a big thing. So we took them, and typical for kids, they spent the entire time running around, running near other people, touching everything, exploring the place, rolling around on beds, climbing on furniture. I mean,
Yeah, you sound like a really bad parent.
I hope the little bastards were wearing masks.
obviously they got repeatedly told off. But yeah, they had masks, but did they want to wear them the whole time? No, and kids don't have to. But
That's why they invented duct tape.
Yeah. But actually, the shocking thing was the adults that I saw there that weren't wearing masks.
I know.
Because it
Hang on,
felt
were they not-
it felt really awkward. Like,
were they allowed in
face-to-face
without a
sort of thing.
mask then?
Yeah, people came in, or they came in and take them off. Plenty of people took them off.
People are dickheads. They really
Someone
are.
walked right past me and took their mask off, and I thought, what are you doing? I mean, which brings me to another thing. Masks, I mean, they're really hard to keep on for any length of time. I feel sorry for people in front-facing jobs where you have to keep them for ages.
Well, you see, that's why
difficult.
they have an exemption. That's why.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if you
We're
work in a
supposed to be
store or
wearing-
whatever,
Yes.
it's us that's supposed to be wearing it. And again, you know, it's this, oh, well, you're trying to put a gag on me and it's a state and all that. No, we don't want this infection to get any worse. So put your mask on.
No.
It must be said that there's now the
completely
new
agree.
KBF hashtag on Twitter. If you see someone with that in their profile, it's pretty much a nailed on certainty that they are a 10 out of 10 arsehole. So
Do they use the word woke a lot?
No,
it
being woke
depends.
wouldn't be applicable, would it? Woke people
No,
would
the
wear
the
masks. It's the other-
KBF lot are not woke. They're demented.
but
They're
do
sort of
they-
combination
do
of foaming anti-vax / pro-Brexit / general derangement. So yeah, if you see that in a Twitch profile, just run. You know, there's no, you can't, you can reason with it in the same way you can reason with a barnyard animal. So
Yeah. I mean,
So,
what
No,
has
Phil's
been
right. Sorry.
Thanks, Steve. That's I think it's the
I
first
was
time
gonna
I've
say
ever
that,
heard you say
You
that.
have to wear a mask like a doctor or a nurse who's got to wear one for 8 hours or however long
Yeah,
their
that
shift
must
lasts.
be
I mean, my
horrendous.
problem is always that it steams up my glasses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've read-
you know how to get around that, Steve? You
Put a-
pull your
I'm not-
wear
glasses.
one?
You pull your glasses forward,
you need
and
a
then
better
the air goes
mask.
up and through.
You
So-
need a better mask because
Yeah,
I've just
mask
got one
with a
with a
bridge.
stiffer top at the bridge. So
Well,
yeah.
I quite
Oh, yeah.
fancy taking the Johnny Depp approach and looking quite cool and looking like the Winter Soldier.
But what it got me thinking about was actually, I'm quite up for seeing Tenet. I'm quite up for now going to the cinema. But the announcement that you got to wear a mask the whole time makes me think 3 hours of wearing a mask. I mean, I just think that'll be me staying at home for that one.
Look, as long as they release the sodding thing in America for 5 minutes so they can get the disc out by Christmas, I couldn't give them monkeys at this point. It's just, it's like, I do find it quite funny that we're going to get it before America.
Yeah, but do you think that it's the death knell for cinema saying that you're
Well, I think the
imposing wearing
AMC
masks?
Universal deal is more of a death knell for cinema now that
Yes,
they've agreed to
yeah.
17 days, which is essentially day and date.
Yeah.
If everyone else starts piling in with that one, then other than the big tentpole releases like a Tenet or a Black Widow, pretty much everything else is going to go day and date. And I mean, cinemas are going to struggle to survive this at the moment.
There's a lot of businesses that are going to struggle to survive, and the thing is, we are going to completely change how things are done in our normal lives. And if people haven't accepted that yet, then they're going to get a shock.
Well, also, I think when you change a habit, so say for example, you get used to watching films on streaming services, or or just doing VOD rather than going to cinema. Once you get into that habit, it can be difficult to get out of that habit again. You think, I can't be bothered to drive all the way to the cinema and find some parking and then get, when you add up all the cost of it and the inconvenience, you're going, I'll just stream it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a doomsayer, but this could be the end of the cinema as we know it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking that about a few things. I mean, obviously, we discussed IFA a few weeks back and how that show is going to have to change. In any event like that, where lots and lots of people get together, these things are they're not going to happen this year. From all over the world. CES is the biggest show on the planet. Luckily, they've taken the decision early, nice and early, not to have the show this year. It's all going to be online. So it means that 170,000 people are not all descending on Vegas in January during the winter months when everybody. I can't remember any CES where I haven't had the sniffles in one form or another. Some years, myself and you, Steve, have been incredibly
the last
sick
time I was
when
there
we've been
with Ed, we had to go to the doctor.
Yeah, we did.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's because neither of you drank enough.
Quite possibly.
Maybe, but
well,
obviously
hands
we
up
got a
hands
virus.
up who was ill, and it wasn't me. So when I was sharing a flat with you guys.
No, but you came late. So
yes, I then started
we'd been
drinking early.
Yeah, so me and Steve had actually been out a few
on that
days.
flight to LA and back. I did in one day, and I gave it. I caught it on that, gave it to you. But by the time Ed arrived, I was no longer
Yeah.
Yeah. We were no longer.
No, that was just the flu. So that wasn't even the flu. It was a chest infection.
It wasn't even flu. It was a chest infection, actually.
It was chest infection. But it just shows you how easy it is to catch this. And you've got 170,000 people all descending on the one place. It's just going to be a nightmare. So you can understand why the decision has been made. But coming back to the point you've made, Steve, about cinema having to change to keep up, these shows are going to have to change. I can't see them going forward next year or the year after in the same form that they exist or existed prior to this. So there's no Vegas this year. I'm starting to think, well, maybe I won't get out to Vegas again. Maybe it's going to be a case of these shows do change, and that because they're going online and it's easier for manufacturers to hold their own events. Philips are holding their own event. They're not doing IFA. We've had all the stuff through for that for the 1st of September. They are really putting everything into it. If that works for them, and it's easier than flying 300 journalists out to Amsterdam or whatever, or out to IFA in Germany, it's cost effective that way. They can still get their message across, and they're still getting the message out there that they want to get out there. It's maybe more cost effective. And I'm only picking Philips as an example because that's something. Right. It's just one of the ones that I thought of first of all. But Samsung's cancelled IFA. They're going to do their own unveil or unbox thing that they do. So you could see more follow. Apple already pulled out a long time ago. Microsoft pulled out of CES. Were they ever there when you were there, Steve, or Microsoft?
Briefly, I think Hisense took their old stand, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Hisense took over their old stand. So Microsoft pulled out years ago. So it could be that these shows never come back in the form that we have known them to be for decades. And it's maybe going to be a good thing. If it cuts down on air travel and lots of people having to use that form of transport, that could be good going forward. A lot of companies are realizing now as well that they don't need to be spending the vast sums of money that they do on real estate for their businesses. They can have people working from home or working in smaller office environments and so on. So I think there's going to be some big changes. Cinema is going to change. These big shows that we are so fond of and so on. I mean, it'd break my heart not to go back to Vegas because I love the place and I love the show. And this is the first year in 14 years that I won't be going. And it's, it's after that amount of time, it becomes your part of your life, and not doing it feels a bit strange. So it's going to really be strange come January, and we're talking about CES and nobody's been. So yeah, I think there's going to be some big changes coming up, and cinema.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving these online press events. I mean, all it takes up is an hour of my time, and I don't have to travel anywhere, and I get the same information and the freebie in the post.
No, so that's absolutely fine. You do get the same information. The ability to get the little extra snippets of information.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's the challenge, because that was always, without turning this into a competition, that's what separated the people that turn up and simply cut and paste the press release from people who can actually determine the significance of what's going on.
You build relationships with certain people in certain companies because you keep seeing them at shows and so on. Like when we did the Denon podcast a couple of weeks ago, I've known Roger Batchelor for 18 odd years because we used to see each other on a yearly basis at certain shows, and you build up a relationship and rapport with people like that. And it's, that's a big part of the job that doesn't get seen, by the end users and so on, is the fact that you build these relationships with people. And it's always a case, it doesn't matter who the person works for, it's the relationship between you and building that and keeping it going. And if you're not seeing anybody through these online things and you're not meeting the people, then you start to lose the little bits of information, Ed, that you point out that makes it worthwhile, and could make your story stand out more from somebody else's, because you've taken the time to stand with the engineer and actually try to understand what it is that they've done to the product this year. And that
Can I be cynical here? With 2 Channel, it's a case of making sure that you stay until alcohol starts, because then they start admitting stuff that they wouldn't normally do. So,
well, for me, Ed, it was a smoker's corner. So when I was a smoker, I was
there's different ways of getting the same information.
But that was brilliant because at the time, the Japanese firms were the largest firms on the go when it came to TV and so on.
And they all smoked like chimneys.
Yeah, I used to get all the information from the engineers and stuff, standing outside having a couple of cigarettes and discussing what's what. So yeah, you miss that side of it. And I, you know, when I changed from working a normal job to working from home, that was the biggest downside for me, was the fact that the interaction that you get in an office and having office banter and that kind of thing, it disappears. And it's the same with these events. You know, you're going to lose a certain amount of the personal side and the relationship side and so on. So yeah, sad to see that. In terms of what I've been doing, TV reviews, been writing them, been testing TVs. I'm getting them in and getting them out. There'll be a whole batch of reviews going up in the next 3 weeks. For those that wanted to know, the Hisense U8 QF is being delivered tomorrow. There was quite a few people asking about that TV. So yeah, that is coming in from Hisense. Looks like being a Stongan TV, because I've already done the U7 QF, which Steve's also had a look at in the last week or so. Cracking little TV, isn't it, Steve?
Cracking little TV, yeah. I mean, you know, it's not perfect, but for the money, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, there are a few issues in there highlighted in the review, so you can go and have a read of the review. But yeah, for the money, cracking little TVs and Hisense still in a roll there. Right, who have we not covered? Oh, Ed, I bet we're going to talk about vinyl.
Well, briefly, I did mention this last week. I'd started putting together what actually is my third turntable.
Why do you need three?
You don't need is such a strong word. I told you it was because I was
need one turntable, if I'm being honest.
Hey, come on now.
I essentially sort of had the bits lying around, and one thing led to another, and yeah, essentially it's now, there's a picture of it. It's back in one piece and it's running. So there's now 3 of them lying abreast. Across the top of the rack, so that's all good. I mean, obviously, when
Ed,
you do, yes.
Can I ask you a question? This is always it's always a question I've wanted to ask whenever I see a photograph like the one that Stuart's showing on the video at the moment. And for those that are not watching the video, it's a turntable with 2 arms,
yes.
one either side of the platter. What happens if you put both arms on? What is there a delay? What is the delay?
Right. If you can put both arms on at the same time, it has no effect on the way it spins at all. I mean, it's only a tiny effect on the rolling resistance, but you'd have to switch physically. I can switch between inputs on the phono stage, and then do an A to B, and there's a tiny delay as it is at a different point on the record. In theory, I suppose you could put 2 identical cartridges on and then cross-thread the 2 inputs, so you could do a sort of weird strobe effect. But I've never bothered. The reason it has 2 arms, this was originally something I used as a piece of test equipment, insofar as the arm on the left-hand side was used for, testing cartridges and so on and so forth, and it did a fine job of that. And then the arm on the right, which was originally different, was always set up so I had a reference point to compare the other things against, and always to have something running. That's sort of fallen by the wayside now. I'm still going to use it to test cartridges and so on and so forth. The other plan I have, naively, should we see a proper easing of this brave new COVID world, I would dearly like to start an album club in Milton Keynes. And I figure that the quickest and easiest way of exerting dominance over other people who may have some ideas about how that should be done is to turn up with a turntable with 100% more arms than is technically needed. So, it's a go big or go home thing.
Yeah. Will there be any women in this group, Ed?
I doubt it. I mean, it would be lovely if there are, but I don't believe it's going to be a means of meeting the fairer sex. But it's a case of just, one of the things that I always find is that there are people with amazing record collections who then play the records on, what is essentially something with a thorn in the end of it. So I'm hoping to give people the opportunity so we can, people can start bringing music that they love, and we can, sit down and chill and enjoy it and so on and so forth. But if that falls by the wayside, at the moment I stuck it on Instagram, I had 2 separate messages from people offering to buy it. So if it comes to it, the simple act of putting it back together again and having it in running condition, one of the offers was sufficiently diverting. I mean, Steve was saying before we kicked off that everyone has their price. One of the offers made over private message was high enough that if I felt like it, I'd let it go for that. So it's running and all the rest of it. News-wise, for Hi-Fi, there is a piece of news, but it hasn't gone up on the site yet because, bizarrely, the story was sent on the Saturday afternoon, and it's JBL, the speaker manufacturer. They have announced the 4349. Snappy title. It's £7,000, but it looks properly good fun.
It's part of their Synthius.
Yes,
system.
so it's semi-pro, background for studios and cinemas and so on and so forth.
Is that £4,000 for two or for one?
It's £7,000 for two.
Sorry, £7,000 for two.
Yeah. But it's a big banger, so to speak. 12-inch driver.
Well, it's a proper horn, yeah.
It's
horn loaded.
I would quite like to have a go on those. So if there's any consensus amongst people listening, either live or that's the sort of thing that you might want to have a look at, I'd only be too happy to give those a whirl. My neighbours probably less so, but we'll work that out.
But really, you're supposed to have 3 of them across the front, and then some at the sides, some at the back, and they're basically a professional cinema speaker dressed up for the home. That's what they are.
If we
that's what they look like.
Decide to do some off-site stuff along those lines, who knows what we might achieve. But I think the maximum that I can be expected to run in my house is 2. Just to be very clear on this. But yeah, as I say, that's a proper. That's got some retro dimensions to it, but it must be said, some of the slightly more expensive and more visibly home focused JBL synthesis speakers, I've had some fantastic demonstrations.
Yeah, I've had some superb demonstrations, especially home theater wise. I mean, it sounds like being in cinema because they're used in the cinema. So
yeah,
you're getting that experience at home. If you want that experience at home, you've got the room, and this is the big thing. You need room for a system like this to breathe, basically. But
you need a cinema, basically.
Yeah, but if you have the space for it, they're definitely worth putting on your demo list to listen to, because they are very, very special.
Yeah,
very, very special.
I mean, I don't want to publicly put the pressure on. I'm still technically waiting for another product from the Harman luxury audio group at the moment for review, which was promised and is still somewhat absent at the moment. So let's try and get that one out of the way, and then we can move on to this one in the fullness of time. I mean, at the moment, there's actually in front of me now is a pair of Martin Logans. So a hybrid electrostatic. They will be going in for review for AVForums presently. Tallest speaker I've ever reviewed for AVForums. Not the widest or the heaviest, but they are the tallest. And I've spent the day tinkering with them. There's a lot to like.
I've always wanted to sit down and have a bit play about with them. I've never had the opportunity. I've only ever heard them in demos and so on. But it's a really interesting technology, and it's been around for decades. But there's just, again, it's another distinctive sounding speaker.
It is very. I mean, it's really weird. It just today has been acclimatizing to a speaker which images beautifully, but it images omnidirectionally. You can walk behind them and it's still doing exactly the same thing, which takes a bit of getting used to, but there's a lot to like. I mean, obviously it's an American speaker, and whenever American speakers come to the UK, there are always idiosyncrasies simply around assumptions made for the US market that just don't work here. The boxes are getting on for 5.5 feet tall, and they have a cardboard outer which needs to be slid up and off the box. And I think you can see where this is going, because that requires a degree of ingenuity in a standard UK home. But nevertheless, we've done that. There's some other little quirks which I will cover off in the review, but lots to like. I've uploaded all of my July reviews, only slightly late. So there's stuff there, quite affordable stuff this month, I'm pleased to say. And I've also written a short article where I will be asking for the forum's help. And having just been listening to what Steve's been saying about comments, I don't know, I may be opening a Pandora's box I can't shut again.
Don't give it 10 out of 10 and you'll be all right.
Fine. I will be asking for the forum's help. Because it's time to do some more album lists, but there's no point me just churning out my opinion. I want your feedback, and I've done a piece on how we're going to do that, and I'm looking for your feedback, and yeah, hopefully we can start creating a really cool resource of music.
What would be really fun is if we did reviews without scores. What would they complain about?
Well, no, absolutely.
They'll find something to complain about, I'm sure.
Why don't we?
Well, last issue, I had some comments. People they raised some legitimate complaints that I use mains conditioners in this
That
system.
assumes that mains conditioners has any impact on.
Well, the reason I have them here is because they protect the review equipment from my house and my house from the review equipment, and they have been present in every single review I've ever done.
Same here.
And they're not going to be removed because I've had a piece of review equipment damage my last house, and I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, I had a subwoofer do that.
So they're here for that. They're here for that reason, and that's why they've never been reviewed.
How did it damage the house?
It was a valve amp. It went properly open circuit and damaged the wiring when it went.
Yeah, and the subwoofer reversed the phase. Screwed everything in the room that was plugged in, basically.
I mean, all power, it has to be said, no pun intended, the company that supplied that product as a distributor, the product never went on sale. The review was pulled. It never published. The product has never been sold in the UK because my feedback and feedback from another dealer said, yeah, it sounds great when it's happy, but when it's not happy, that's bad. So the reason why those mains conditioners are here is for that reason and that reason alone, and they are listed in the equipment tested, so you know that they're present. That's it.
If every socket in my house, because it's an old house and really it could do with a complete and utter rehaul and rewire, but I've never gotten around to being able to afford to do that. Every socket in my house has a conditioner on it or a circuit. What do you call them?
The breakers.
Breakers and so on. So, and I do that mainly to protect the house, but also to protect the gear that comes through. So every review I do. Another thing is, well, if you're using that logic, then calibrating a TV, technically we shouldn't have calibrated a TV because it changes it from its state that you buy it in, doesn't it? So, I mean, you could use those arguments for anything.
This one, that's all fair enough. But that's where we are. So no, we've got a busy month ahead. All manner of excitement. So yeah, we're kicking on, and as I say, my side of the business, we didn't have Munich, and we're still sitting on loads of news stories that haven't been dealt with yet. It'll come out in the wash. It always does.
Well, it's a bit better than just dumping everything at the one time. I've found that actually most weeks we've had stuff to talk about in the podcast, which, sometimes you would have 1 week in the month where you had a lot of news to talk about, whether it was AV or hi-fi or movies, and then you'd have quiet 3 weeks or whatever. It seems to be constant. There's something new coming up, and of course, companies are now getting back or to some normality, now trying to push product out that has been delayed and so on. So yeah, it's been nice and busy in those terms. Before we crack on with the best of the month, just a reminder that we do have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/AVForums. If you want to support us for £3 a month, then head over there and you can do that and sign up. You can also donate through streamlabs.com/AVForums. If you've got a question to ask this evening, that will pop it up and you'll get our full attention. If you make a donation then, that can be a one-off donation. So yeah, if you feel inclined to support us, like I say, it directly helps us out, grow the business, grow AV Forums, get more content like Tom's Thumbs and so on. So yeah, thank you very much for your support. If you've given us a donation, if not, why not? Plenty of time before we finish this evening. And Steve will even tell you to smash that bell.
Yeah, don't forget to smash that bell. Like and subscribe at every opportunity as well.
Yeah.
I know it's Tom's Thumbs got quite a lot of dislike thumbs down.
Well, I think that's very unfair.
Don't draw attention to that.
Who have you offended?
15 people, apparently.
The riders of the Spider-Man score.
I think if you've got a personality and you're on YouTube, you tend to split the audience. It's just one of them things, unless you're a robot and stand there.
Oh, my son watches people I'd gladly drown.
Yeah, well, Stuart mentioned one to me, and I went and checked out. 20 seconds that lasted. I had to come away. Sorry, I could not watch that at all. There's things on there that I don't know how people get satisfaction out of it, but there are some gems there. We watched the big aircraft take out the Russian transporter this afternoon. How that thing gets in the air, I do not know.
Magic,
but that was
very long runway.
Magic, sheer Russian willpower.
Although, if you watch is it Fast and Furious 6?
Apparently
the runway is about
the plane
40 miles long.
Down the incredibly long runway. So
Yeah. Right. So let's move on to best of the month. And because they've been sitting there patiently, not looking bored at all, we'll go to Tom and Kaz first of all for the movie roundup. So, film release of the month. Obviously, there's no cinemas have reopened, but I don't think many of us have ventured out. I know I haven't. I think.
I went again.
You went again. I know Stuart did. Stuart went to see Empire Strikes Back. But I certainly haven't got the cinema yet. I'm not brave enough just yet, even though I don't think anybody would be there. I've still got to walk through the Metro Centre, and I really don't want to do that. So, right. So, film release of the month. Tom, what was yours?
It's difficult. I don't think I've seen much this month that has super wowed me. Having said that, I have not made the time to see Hamilton yet, so slap on the wrist for that. So, could be that. I don't know. If pushed, I'm probably going to say The King of Staten Island, the Pete Davidson movie that came out at the beginning of the month on premium VOD. That at the time I gave it a 7, but I found that in sort of the days afterwards, I was still thinking about it. I was still talking about it, and
it's always a good sign.
Yeah, so I think maybe I was a little bit critical of it to begin with, but there's a lot going on under the surface. It's quite an sympathetic portrait of mental illness, but one that doesn't let its subject off the hook, which is it's a difficult balance to strike, and I think it struck it. So I think that's worth something. Yeah, so probably that. What about you, Kaz?
I think there have been a few things that have been particularly good, whether or not they'd have made me go to the cinema. I really enjoyed being able to check out Proxima and St. Francis. They're both excellent character-driven films. I had no problem with watching them both at home. But I mean, obviously I can't say the same about blockbusters, but they're very, very good little indie flicks. Prove that there are still a few gems out there, but I'd probably have to give it for Affleck's Finding the Way Back. I thought that was a very honest drama about alcoholism, and I guess
he did method it a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I'd give credit to that as well, because that can't have been particularly difficult, kind of playing yourself and confronting those demons in that way. That can't have been an easy task. But I'm always a fan of Gavin O'Connor's work. I think the Warrior was great, and Nick Nolte and Tom Hardy, their interaction in Warrior was really heartbreaking, and I really enjoyed that. So that's probably my film of the month. Still nothing that.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting that that personal project for Ben Affleck and this personal project for Pete Davidson have both sort of premiered in the same month. Maybe sounds like very similar strengths, but maybe not quite on the same levels, perhaps. But
I think they're the ones that touch you.
It's been a month for sort of introspection and character work. The same with Caitlin Moran's How to Build a Girl, which was put on Amazon this week as well.
And even Proxima was, it's about a astronaut who has to go to space, but actually it's about her relationship with her daughter and how she's going to be apart from her for a year. That's heartbreaking as a parent. It's she's estranged from her husband, who she has to leave her daughter with, and she, her daughter's been her whole life, every day. And how do you break it to like I think she's 9-year-old in a way that makes them understand why they're not going to see mummy for a year, and yet it's what you've worked your whole life for if you're an astronaut. I thought it was phenomenal, and particularly touching was at the end they show you all of the real female astronauts with their children, having left them behind, obviously, to go. And it was, to see how many people have actually done it. I can't imagine the damage for families. But yes, certainly, I think these slightly more personal aspects of movies have been have made them that little bit different recently. I guess there's nothing new, there's nothing blockbustery around. These small indie gems are maybe going to come to the fore. It's good to see there's some good content out there, though.
Steve, any new Carper?
My favourite film of the month was Greyhound. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I did actually watch that, yeah.
But I thought it was fun. I thought it was an excellent film, and regardless of its historical accuracy, it was exciting and entertaining.
Oh no,
and
no,
it
to
was a pulse-driving
watch.
90
and
minutes.
Tom Hanks couldn't turn in a truly terrible performance if he tried. So yeah, it was, and as I say, what a pleasant experience to watch a 90-minute film in 2020.
Well, you've all done better than I have because I haven't watched anything this month. In terms
Oh,
of
the Old
films.
Guard wasn't bad either. I quite enjoyed the.
Yeah,
Old
it was
Guard.
fine. That was okay. It was enjoyable.
Well, there you go. High
Okay,
praise.
well, there you go.
That was fine. Tom
Excellent.
Davies. Thumb up.
No thumbs.
No thumbs. Right. Let's go to disc releases, 4K disc releases. I'm going to go to Steve first because Steve normally dips in with some of the American stuff and so on. But have you actually been buying discs, Steve? Is there anything worth buying?
There has not been a lot, and in fact, the only July 4K disc I've bought, July release, is Spartacus, which looks great. It's a fantastic disc. Yeah, stunning picture and really great DTSX soundtrack as well. But that's it. I mean, I did watch. Hang on, when did the Columbia box set come out? Was that this month or was that the previous?
Time just blurs now.
Time blurs now.
Well, it's just come out in the UK.
Obviously, that's great too. I mean, although it's annoying, you have to buy 6 films to get the one you really want, which is Lawrence of Arabia. But Lawrence of Arabia does look absolutely incredible. And again, it's got an Atmos soundtrack, which is surprisingly good considering the film's age. And both those films are 1960, 1962, so they're both 60 or 58 years old. So the fidelity.
It would really have had a 6 stem, wouldn't it?
There would have been a 6 stem. There would have been a 6-track 70mm release soundtrack. Yeah. But obviously the fidelity isn't quite there compared to a modern film. But even so, it's still good. And like I say, the picture quality in particular. Obviously, Lawrence of Arabia 65mm. Spartacus was shot in Technirama 70, I think, which is it's 35mm, but it's like VistaVision. It goes through the camera horizontally rather than vertically, so you get more image area and therefore more detailed image. And yeah, that looked really good too. A really nice restoration by Universal. And obviously, they redeemed themselves after their, I think it was 2010, and when the first Blu-ray release came out, it was covered in DNR, but they did do a 2015 reissue that was vastly superior, and obviously this disc is fantastic. Yeah. So I guess by default, it's Spartacus because it was the only actual Blu-ray released and bought by me in July.
I'm Spartacus.
No, you're not.
Kaz, disc-wise this month?
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking how few discs we've reviewed, but I got Crying Freeman, which by default I guess should be my disc of the month. I mean, it was really tremendous finding it to get a release.
Didn't you, Kaz? Did you like that one? I think you quite liked that one.
Yeah, I think I quite like that one. Brotherhood of the Wolf would have been nicer, but I did get the chance to watch Flash Gordon. I mean, the review will be up shortly, and so I'm going to sneak that in as my disc of the month. I mean, it's not technically out yet, but it looks fantastic, and it was really
as long as you watched it in July, Kaz, you can have it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've also seen
times.
the upcoming Pitch Black disc from Arrow, and that looks fantastic.
Oh, I have that on pre-order.
Yeah, it looks tremendous. I mean, considering it was a pretty low-budget movie, I mean, obviously they can't improve some of the effects, but some of the colours that they use were very imaginative first time round. And it translates to gorgeous HDR. I mean, it looks fantastic.
I always think the opening sequence of that, I mean, not giving away any spoilers, just the opening, the arrival, for want of is a triumph of how to get something like that done with actually very limited on-screen special effects.
Yes. Just shake the camera loads, shake it loads.
No, but it's so visceral how it's been done. It's super
great sound design as well.
Yes.
And one of the most, I mean, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but most of the other things that Radha Mitchell has been in have been sort of plot-driven, acting-related stuff. And she's bloody marvellous in that.
Yeah, she is really good.
You
it throws you a lot of curveballs in it. And I have to say, rewatching it and thinking about back when Vin Diesel wasn't an ego, it was actually really nice to try and think about how when you first watch it, you don't really know who this Vin Diesel guy is. He could be an actual serial killer psycho. and they do really well in it. I mean, he's not an overblown hero stroke anti-hero superhero and like in the other ones, but he's worth a lot of money. He's Hannibal Lecter on steroids. I really enjoyed going back to that. Hell, the monsters don't even turn up for like an hour into it. It's like The Descent.
Yeah.
It's got its own survival movie thing going on for ages, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, we're not alone here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So that's I was going to sorry.
No, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, so that's Flash Gordon and Pitch Black in August. I think in September there's a few things coming out. I think the Sherlock Holmes films, Full Metal Jacket is due in September. Whiplash, I think maybe in September.
Whiplash,
in October though, we've got Back to the Future trilogy.
Back to the Future trilogy. That's a certain purchase for me. And we've also got the Hitchcock collection coming. So we're finally getting some Hitchcock in 4K.
Yes.
Yeah, and some of those were shot like Vertigo, and definitely maybe a couple of others were shot in VistaVision, so they should look pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, they're on Sky at the minute in 4K, but not HDR. So
it's not Microsoft VistaVision though. So
thankfully, well, we can see what they've done with our sync tonight. Thanks, Microsoft. And Skype.
Apparently, it's improved fractionally for mysterious reasons. So.
Okay, so that's. Did I ask you, Tom, for your disc?
You did, but there's no point because I don't think I bought a single disc this month.
Okay, same as me. Same as me. The last one I bought was Jaws, and I think that was probably June or might even have been May. So there you go. That's how far behind I am. Right, so we've covered those. Let's have some Q&A before we go into
No. What about me?
What about you?
You haven't done
discs?
Music.
Yeah, it's only 5 to 8.
But you haven't done my music.
It's only 5 to 8, Ed. Let me.
He wants to talk about Tay-Tay. Come on, let him talk about her.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that you're stalling because you vehemently disagree with me on this one, but nevertheless, I thought at some stage I was doing album final release and playlist of the month.
Well,
you will be.
Like I just said, it's 5 to 8. Let's do some Q&As on AV, and then we'll go into music. Okay.
All right.
Oh yeah, someone's just mentioned Ghost in the Shell's coming to 4K.
Yeah. I'm not talking about Taylor Bloody Swift. Right.
Will be.
Let's have a look. Do we have any questions in there? Right. So hello, Phil and Steve. I'm only going to this one because it's right at the bottom and easy to find. History amazing. I'm considering a BenQ HT5500 as my first 4K first projector. Would you recommend something else for the price point? $2,000-ish. It depends on your room. So let's have some information for you and we'll come back to this one. So what are your room conditions? Can you black out the room completely? Are you going to have a fixed screen? Are you going to point it at the wall? How are you intending to setting this up? How light controlled are you? Do you have light colored walls and ceilings, or will you be able to at least
have you had DLP before? Because
have you seen DLP and so on before? Give us some answers to those. We'll come back with some recommendations because $2,000-ish. It depends. If you've got the right environment, I'd probably point you in another direction completely, another technology completely. But we'll see what your answers are to that.
There's a question that I know Steve might have some input for from Dave Stevens. Can you tell me how to get Atmos cables? I'll admit one word from the question. Up through an existing false ceiling. I'm 6 hours in. I've only done one speaker. Steve, haven't you done this? You've wired.
I just taped them to the ceiling.
Oh, okay, right, it's fine. You didn't do a take call related.
What I did was I taped them to the ceiling, and then I got some of those, stick-on sound absorbing things and covered them over so you can't see the cables. Pulling speaker cable through false ceilings or through joists on the floor and so on is really time-consuming. It's worth doing if you want a nice clean install. Just be prepared to take a bit of time. But once you've done one, it tends to get a little bit quicker. And
can I give you the standard self-employed advice, which applies to you here? You need to work out how much you earn an hour. Then you need to work out how many hours it's going to take you and whether it's worth paying someone else to do it in less time than it will take you. My entire life is now predicated around these calculations because I know exactly how much I can earn an hour, and anything that distracts from that, I have to work out how much it will cost me for someone else to come in and do it. It's like at some stage, I'm going to have a natural gardener come in and just set fire to my garden because I think that's what needs to be done by this point because I can't be asked and something needs to be done to it. And I've seen how much the gardeners charge, and it's less than it will cost me to do it. So and also you're stimulating the economy, COVID style. What more could you ask for? you know. So.
Phil, History Amazing has answered your question.
Has he?
Room
not
not light controlled, but I will put black matte wallpaper. You know, you can get black matte wallpaper. Fixed green will also be there, never an objective. Right, if you're going for a really dark room and spending about £2,000, I'd be looking at maybe the
3LCD from Epson. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, you could probably get the TW9400 is 2.5, and that's an absolutely stonking projector for £2,500.
Yeah, very, very accurate, good HDR for what you can get from a projector. Don't expect TV levels of brightness or HDR and so on. If you can't control the light, if you're only covering black at one end, you might suffer in terms of contrast, because contrast is not great from the Epson. It really does need black material. So I'd put black material. It's
not great from the DLPs either, is it really?
Yeah.
So much better.
No, but it is brighter, so you'll get more brightness from a DLP. But again, you've got rainbows and other things. But color should be okay. Color should be reasonable, but you won't get wide color from a DLP. So again, the Epson can do wide color, DLP can't. So if it's from a movie point of view, you want HDR, you want wide color, you want well, it's it's not 4K, but it does the pixel shift and so on. If you want all that, the Epson is a cracking projector. The only thing I would say is just make sure you can keep the lens cover on, because dust is an issue with LCDs.
It's got a motorized lens cover, isn't it?
Has it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's got a motorized lens cover and motorized lens controls. I mean, I don't know what shape screen you're getting, but it's got lens memory and everything. I mean, it's the Epson the Epson EH-TW9400. I think it's 2499, maybe a bit less than that now. And that is, for the money, the best projector you can get for that cash, basically.
There you go. I haven't seen an Epson for a couple of years, so there you go. Steve, when did you do it? You did that this year.
I did a review only a few months ago. It's fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. So there's your answer.
I got one. Right. There's not really a question. It was a comment by Condo 007. Interesting point he made, which is some cinemas in the States are now renting out the whole cinema for groups of friends, which I think actually might be quite a good idea for keeping their business going. Because
I saw a thing as well, Steve, along those lines, but it was more designing cinemas for the future. And rather than having seats, rows of seats and so on, it was to actually have pods on top of each other and so on. So you're not sitting in front of each other or behind each other, whatever. You can go in little groups and sit in the pods, kind of like a football stadium where you have all the corporate boxes and that kind of thing. That kind of approach with a big screen in front of everybody to watch a film. So yeah, that looked interesting from that perspective. And again, like we said earlier on, this pandemic could change things, and they're going to have to come up with ways of enticing people back. And the more safe people feel, the more they're going to come back to the cinema. So yeah, saw that one. It was good.
Phil Singh, I can't get in a goat. It's a good idea, but the nature of the plant life that's in there, it's not goat friendly. I know they can eat most things, but there's sort of thistles and stuff like that, and I'd break the goat.
Right, for people that are listening just audio-wise, what are you talking about?
Phil Singh said, get a goat. That's what my friend did, cleared his garden in 2 days. And I don't disagree with that. If you've got meadow issues, herbivores are the way forward. But I'd break the goat, and then I'd have to get rid of a dead goat as well as the stuff that's in my garden.
You'd have to eat a dead goat, Ed.
Yeah, goat's lovely.
Oh, okay, right. Well, yes, but I'd then presumably have to pay the person whom I originally borrowed the goat off. I couldn't say I lost the goat, could I? Because that's not going to work.
Well, you're wiping the corners of your mouth. I lost your goat. Sorry about that.
That strong smell.
Could have a whip round for you.
Well, maybe. And there was another question I can actually provide some sort of thoughts on. Best Atmos downfires from Grumpy Capybara. SVS Prime elevations, they do look good. They seem to be very competent. And the rest of the Prime series is excellent. But Dali makes some ridiculously cost-effective ones, which are well worth a look. I've been impressed on all the occasions I've heard those. And it's very hard to ignore the fact that Kef are now 3 generations into theirs, so they are very, very, very good at what they do. And also, this can matter depending on what you're driving them with. The Kefs are incredibly benign in sensitivity and impedance. So if you've got lots and lots of speakers going off the same amplifier, the cumulative impedance does start to be something you should pay attention to. They are exceptionally easy to drive. But at the moment, most people are making a speaker that specialized have actually done a reasonably good job of it. So you can't go too far wrong. And I imagine the SVSs will be very capable as well.
Yeah. One final question before we get on to Ed's Taylor Swift review. Phil and Steve, will we have 2021 lineup of TVs? Or will manufacturers skip 20 and keep 2020 longer? I think they're going to skip and keep things a bit longer. Just it doesn't make business sense to do anything else, and unless 2021 was quite far progressed before lockdown, but I don't think that was the case. So I think you're going to see models staying around quite a bit longer. And that was history amazing again, right, Ed?
Quick one, sorry, from Licensed Taxi Man. He said at some point we'd be reviewing the Marantz SR8015.
Yes,
probably when it turns up. And the Do divides. Amazon Prime have stopped using Atmos, even taken off Jack Ryan. Well, they only ever used it on Jack Ryan, so there wasn't much to take off, was there? But apparently it's a license thing. I think Amazon are falling behind a bit here when you consider that Disney, Apple, and Netflix have got Vision and Atmos.
Are they going to do a Sky though? Are they going to put all their money in the pot for Premiership football? Is that what they're lining up?
They've got a pretty big pot, though, haven't they?
Yeah, let's face it. Yeah,
they can afford a license for
Amazon and Apple. I mean, they just look in both music and video as the most. Essentially, at the moment, if I was being cynical, I think their entire plan is just predicated around burning out their key competitors in both music and video, and then they'll decide what they want to do with it. They just have to sit there and not go bust, which is not very hard for either of them to do.
Yeah. So do you think that this is a pressure thing then with Dolby over Atmos? Maybe they want to lower the costs or whatever, and it's maybe one way of doing it. Anyway, let's move on to Taylor Swift.
Right.
Sorry,
okay.
Ed.
You've clearly got taking umbrage with this, but the album of the month is Folklore by Taylor Swift. It's the best thing that's come out this month, and I've
got to
listened
second that, Ed. It is great.
This is the thing. We are dealing with someone who has never ever had a problem writing a catchy tune at all, and there's a slight irony here that technically this is what happens when Taylor Swift has been released from the commercial constraints of filling a stadium on the back of an album and so on and so forth. The irony is that actually it's sold like a phenomenon, and it brings a whole new clutch of people into potentially being interested in what she's done. People are talking about it being very different. It doesn't actually. I mean, in terms of the content, it's still fundamentally. You wouldn't necessarily want to date Taylor Swift simply because all that will happen is you'll end up being the subject of a song about when it goes wrong at some point in the future. But nevertheless, this is a tremendous album to listen to, and the best advice I can give to you, and it's on all of the streaming services, it's on both Tidal and Qobuz, and I believe Amazon HD, in Amazon Music HD in a high res variation. Just listen to it and don't give any thought to the person that wrote it, and judge it on its own merits. And the result is it's a phenomenal thing. And the duet with Bon Iver, Exile, is probably one of the best songs I've heard all year.
Sorry, just the trilogy, there's 3 songs. I think they're 3, 4, and 5, but you've got The Last Great American Dynasty, and then Exile, and then I think, is it Teardrop Ricochet? Or
yes, that's it. Yeah.
Those 3, they don't quite start off the album, but they're awesome. Definitely give it a go, even if, seconding what Ed said, even if you don't think you're a Taylor Swift person.
Well, I did give it a go, and I've been joking because I've been joking because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great album.
Who'd have thought that Phil, Ed, and Tom are Tay-Tay fans?
Yeah, have you listened to it?
Steve,
have you listened to it?
I'm not a fan. I just said I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good album.
Yeah, Steve, have you listened to it?
No, I'll give it a listen.
Give it a listen. I mean, the irony is, of course, this is her non-commercial
Have I
project.
listened to it? I'm a 53-year-old man. I've been listening to the same song since 1972.
No, this is fair. But the irony,
come on, shake it off.
This is her non-commercial
I have
effort.
heard
And the
that.
chances are I'm going to drop 30 quid on a blooming vinyl copy of it. So, it is a weird undertaking, a weird understanding of non-commercial. But nevertheless, I think it's absolutely brilliant. By a country mile, the best thing I've listened to this month. The nature of the physical releases, if you're interested in that sort of thing, it seems incredibly complicated. There's going to be 8 different versions and all the rest of it. And it seems I'm going to see if it's remotely practical to buy it in the UK for a price that doesn't make me wince, and I'll take it from there. But it's on all the streaming services, and it sounds pretty damn good in that format. Vinyl release that is out this month is a bit more traditional. C6 Steve Wold has released an album called Love and Peace. If you're looking for any great development in the way that he sounds or writes songs, you will be sorely disappointed because he makes no progress in these sort of things. But the man writes a good catchy tune, and he was a former recording engineer, so everything is always beautifully done. The vinyl turned up a couple of days ago, and like every other piece of his work that I've bought on vinyl, it's been done carefully. There's no issues with the pressing, and it's a really nice piece of work. So that's well worth a look. And then Playlist is a bit of a weird one on Qobuz, and I'm sorry I keep recommending Qobuz Playlist, but they're the only people that seem to be trying. It's the cynical answer to this. Where's it gone? Where's Playlist escaped to? It's called Pop Meets Orchestra. And it does pretty much what it says on the tin. There's been so many orchestral versions of various songs organised on sometimes been done as whole specialised albums. Sometimes they've been live spin-offs and so on and so forth. It just collates 50 of them in one place. And some of them are great.
Include those old 70s classic rock albums?
Right. Well, there's Peter Gabriel does Salisbury Hill with an orchestra, which is obviously, I don't know, Steve, are you not impartial to it?
I think that's Live Blood. I think he does.
Yes, it is. Yeah. New Blood. But
New Blood,
yes,
that's the one.
Correct.
Well, though Live Blood was the one he did live.
But then there's Sting, Foreigner. I mean, Steve, it's quite 70s. Roy Orbison, Deep Purple, bit of David Gilmour. I think, Steve, you could probably do all 50 tracks.
Sounds
in
right
5
up
hours.
my street.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But it's a really, I mean, obviously, I use classical music, and I have to say I use it in a really sort of a joyless way. I do use it as part of the test sort of sequence of stuff, and there are pieces of classical music that I utterly adore, but I don't sort of go on at length about them. But as a means of actually working out how your system scales and images and things like that, there's very little that can touch it.
You have to come back to real instruments if you're going to do any assessment of audio in any shape or form. Then you have to come back to real instruments, and orchestration is great for that. What was I going to recommend? There was a new track came out from John Williams. It was from the Witches of Eastwick. It's I can't remember the name of the track now, but it's an absolutely fantastic track. It's been re-released, remixed. It came out this week on Spotify. I've had a few listens through the system. It sounds amazing. It sounds really good. That could be a new test track for me. It's I was just having a look through Spotify. I couldn't find it there, but you've got to have those bits of music that have real instruments in them. I've got one. It's an old BBC demo of a drum kit.
Yeah.
And it was just recorded in a studio. It was mic'd up, and it's just a drum kit being played. And it's amazing how much you can pull out of a sound system just by listening to something like a drum kit.
Something with a fixed point of reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
History Amazing is just Ed and I did for an upcoming list of albums, Unknown Gems of a Style. I don't know if you were there at the start of the podcast. I'm going to be asking for all of these in a controlled and orderly way, because we are going to be doing this project as a forum. I'm dragging you down with me on this. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled, and I will be asking for all of this, and we're going to do it in a thoroughly methodical way, and we are going to create a resource of music which is genuinely brilliant.
Excellent.
Not overstating it. We are. Yes.
When is Record Store Day?
Well, it sort of happened and didn't happen. The whole problem with Record Store Day is that you can't easily pivot it completely to online, because the idea is that certain things are added to record shops' orders without them asking, in tiny numbers. So you get incredibly lucky with certain things turning up, and I don't know how they can replicate that.
Yeah.
But they've sort of, I mean, a number of the releases are sort of trickled out online, as far as I understand it.
Well, yeah, because there's a Bowie live album from the soul leg of the Diamond Dogs tour, which I really want.
Well, my gut feeling is, Steve, that it will now be on Discogs for £1 million. That's how most record stores.
If anybody listening has got a copy, now's your time to fleece Steve, basically.
No, I don't think it's come out yet. Cause I thought Record Store Day was moved to August.
Well, I haven't been paying that much attention, because I mean it interferes with my drinking, Steve, as you know. I will try and find out for you. Next week's podcast, I'll have a definitive answer of what on earth is going on, and I'll try and stay sober long enough to deliver it.
And if you're a Waterboys fan, Mike Scott's got a new album out called Good Luck Seeker. Comes out on the 21st of August.
Splendid.
Okay. Good stuff. That seems to have wrapped up our music side of things. Before we go any further, just some quick questions. Sam and Edie, looking forward to Langdorf MP40 review. So am I. When's it coming? When's it coming? The NAD turned up, which has Dirac on board. So I'm going to play a bit with Dirac and Room Perfect and so on before I give you my final analysis. I have been using it for quite a number of weeks now, and it is an absolutely stonking, fantastic piece of kit. And Room Perfect is just so easy to use, and
that's what it says on the tin.
It makes a difference in terms of it tightens up. I'm so used to this room, and I noticed a difference. And it was a positive difference. And I've watched a number of things now on it, and I've listened to loads of music, because obviously lockdown, no shops downstairs. I've had it on in the background and so on, and fantastic bit of kit. So review will be a few weeks yet, because I want to play about with Dirac and understand that and understand the systems a bit before I start doing any final analysis on the stuff. But yeah, if you want to go and buy one now, I wouldn't stop you, basically. So if you're waiting on it to go and buy one, I wouldn't stop you going and buying one, because it is an absolutely fantastic bit of kit. And just to see if there's anything else that we've missed.
There is one
TV show reviews.
But sorry, there's one question
by ASL.
There's one question.
We're coming on that next, Kaz.
Where's it gone? That someone was asking. They've attached a Denon AVR. Yeah, Marantz 7010, and it can only drive 9 speakers, but it can process 11 channels. I've added surround backs and added an old Denon 1910 as an external amp, but it's not working. Have you maxed the volume on the Denon, because it's being used as a power amp? So you need to bypass its volume completely, because the volume is being driven on the Marantz. So essentially, you need to set the Denon to 0 dB, and so it can function as a power amp. So I check that, would be my gut. Just reading that as a question, and we'll see if that has any effect.
Okay, Gustavo, which TVs this year have all the specs for the next gen consoles in terms of HDMI 2.1? LG have HDMI 2.1 at 40 gigabits per second. If you watch the Denon podcast, you'll know that that's plenty enough. The other thing is that a lot of these consoles, they're probably not going to run at maximum. You'll probably be able to get away with HDMI 2.0 B and ALLM and so on built into most TVs this year as well. So I don't think you're going to, this year you're not going to need anything specific, but if you're looking for something specific, LG's, they'll do 2.1, like I say, got 40 gigabits per second. If you want more on that, I would recommend you go and watch the Denon podcast.
There's a lot more.
Phil Jones goes into it in great detail, makes it nice and easy to understand. So if you want to get up to speed with that, I would go and watch that podcast. We did it a couple of weeks ago. It's well worth watching. Right, I think we're up to date with everything there, so we just need to move on to our final subject this week. It's not movie star related or actors. It's our best TV shows of the month. And somebody I know who watches a lot of TV other than Kaz is Steve. So Steve, what have you been watching?
Right. One of I enjoyed this month, The Plot Against America on HBO, on Sky. That was a really good series and obviously quite timely, although the book it's based on was actually written before Trump ever got into power. But it deals with alternative history where Charles Lindbergh who was an anti-Semite and a bit of a fascist, became president of the United States in this version of history instead of FDR in the 1940 election, I think it is. That was a really good series. I've thoroughly enjoyed Mrs. America on BBC Two, which is about the 1970s women's lib movement with Kate Blanchett, who, frankly, I'd read the phone book. She's fantastic in it, as always. And there's a great documentary series on BBC Two as well called Once Upon a Time in Iraq, which deals with the Iraq War, but from the perspective of people who are actually there on the ground, Iraqi civilians, US soldiers, etc., rather than those at the high end making the decisions. And that's a really interesting series as well.
Okay. Ed, you've been watching any TV?
Force and Fire, which doesn't
too.
really count. So, yeah.
No,
it does.
Come on.
I'll tell you what, Forge and Fire against the judges, you lose the amateur side of things, so you lose the redneck American Texan with his making loads of mistakes and things snapping. You get the experts, so it's previous winners who come back in, 3 of them. They get whittled down to 2, and then it gets whittled down to 1. But there's none of the forging or anything like that to start with, so they bring the stuff in that they've been set or tasked to do, and then the winner of that goes up against one of the judges. And it was fascinating seeing the judges being put on the spotlight, because I don't think there would be many judges. Like if you take something like, I don't know, what's the one with the dancing, Strictly Come Dancing or whatever it is with the judges, you would never see them challenging the judges to go and do a dance and then be judged by the other judges. But this is what they're doing on this, so it takes a lot of bottle to put your professional side of things on the line. And the judge got beat this week, but he was beaten by somebody who was far better than him. And it made fascinating watching from that side of things. I did miss the whole amateur.
Oh no, I mean you missed the yelling at the television element, but obviously if you want yelling at the television, there's some earlier seasons as well for quality yelling at television. So no, that's been good. Otherwise, I haven't watched a huge amount. I briefly watched something in 480 lines of glorious Blu-ray vision on Amazon about various muscle cars and so on and so forth, but it was dreadful, so I stopped. So I've largely been, I say it's been heavily music driven. If you want, if you have an obsessive compulsive disorder, can I thoroughly recommend / don't go anywhere near putting together a turntable which hasn't run for 3 years with a load of extra new bits. If you want to feed your obsessive compulsive disorder, there is nothing to get close to that. Nothing at all. I've been pissing about with strobes, spirit levels, the whole works. It's been glorious. Entire evenings have been consumed by it. So, although I do agree with Condor 007, patiently waiting for the second series of The Boys. I watched the first series of The Boys. I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that very, very much. But I'd watch Carl Urban read a phone book, if I'm honest.
Perhaps we need the Dread
Kate. TV series.
He's not quite at the Mark Strong levels of absolute man crush that we've discussed in the past, but no, Carl Urban is a magnificent human being, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to watching him again.
Even with the accent, even with the accent.
Oh,
the Billy Butcher
accent in The Boys is great.
Yeah, it's
pure comedy gold.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I don't think he's going for realistic, is he? Come on.
Can I just ask, either Amazon, Netflix, whatever, can someone commission Mark Strong for? I don't know. I don't care what you put him in. I just want to watch. I just want to watch him lovingly.
If you went to the cinema more often back in the day, you would have got a fix every time you sat down to watch a movie.
It was a treat when he popped up in 1970s. I recognised his voice before you actually saw him.
Yeah, that's what it's like. He's the guy who comes on in the cinema that you don't see him, but you can hear him go, "Hello." Isn't that sound that's nice? The sound of silence. So put away your mobile phones, and that would have been your Mark Strong fix every time you saw a film ad.
Well, yeah, but that was a necessity. We go to the cinema and it's full of people, and people are awful. We've discussed this.
Talking about awful people.
Who are we throwing to here?
Effortless
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. I haven't seen any TV apart from obviously Forge and Fire. I watched the end of the football season, and that's about it. Basically, I've been watching the same things over and over and over and over and over again. So I need to sit down and watch some TV. But I did.
There was
I
actually,
did watch.
Did you see
I
the
did-
article, Phil?
What
There was an
article?
article in the it was doing the rounds. I think it was the Guardian one. At the moment, we're actively looking for content that reminds us of when the world wasn't broken. You're not alone in this. None of us are alone in this. We're constantly looking for stuff that reminds us that we're not living in a dystopian nightmare. So don't feel bad about it.
I did finally catch up with Mandalorian. I have watched that now. I finished it. So,
Good. Well done.
So good. The
Yeah, it
Taika
was okay.
Waititi finale. So good.
It was okay.
What?
I think it's more rewarding if you are more familiar with things like the Clone Wars and
Yeah.
Rebels. And I suspect that's going to be even more the case with
I
season
liked
two,
it because
yeah.
I
where
liked
they're
it
going
because it
deep
was-
into it.
I liked it because it was episodic. I liked
Yeah,
that
no, it's good on
aspect.
one and done TV.
It was like
wasn't
it was like a
basically?
different adventure every week, which reminded me of the 80s programs that I really liked that were like that. You know,
Yeah.
the A-Team and Knight Rider and Airwolf and all that kind of where you had a
it
different
was-
story every week. And there was a little, story that runs through them all, basically, but you had a different adventure every week, and I really
was
enjoyed that
not
approach.
that-
The one on the
very
prison
much.
ship, which is basically one.
Yeah, that was
corridor-
brilliant.
One corridor set.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best episodes.
It was absolutely brilliant. And you just thinking, watching it, you just thinking, well, why was Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau not given the trilogy that the awful trilogy that we've just had? Because Mandalorian, some of the ideas in there was some callbacks. You got Tatooine and so on,
Really
but
good stuff.
it wasn't in your face. It wasn't fan service. You know what I mean? And yeah, it was done really well. So I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was
It's
good.
like the in that prison ship. There's the one guy on the ship, and he's wearing that kind of helmet from Star Wars. You think,
Nice
oh yeah,
shoes.
nice little callback. Plus, the guy is Matt Lanter, who's the voice of Anakin on the Clone Wars. So
Yes.
little nods like that, which you wouldn't necessarily.
There's
pick up on
loads
a
of little
feature.
cameos in the
Yeah, it's
Mandalorian.
chock
film.
full of it.
So
yeah.
good.
I mean, Dave Filoni, and particularly Jon Favreau, he knows his Star Wars stuff in terms of digging deep into throwing in things like Life Day and that sort of stuff, even stuff from the holiday special.
No, it was good, and I liked all that aspect. It wasn't as forced as JG's made them in the movies. And let's not talk about the middle.
I
one.
watched
Do
Dave
you mean the best
Filoni.
one, Phil? Do you mean are you talking about the best one? The Last Jedi, the best Star Wars film.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
it,
that's
stop
it
it,
for the
I'm
podcast
hungry
this
and I'd
week.
like to
Thanks
have
very
my-
much for listening.
I watched Dave Filoni just talk about the Phantom Menace and explain it to you, and you're watching him and you're going like, yeah, he's right. That sounds amazing. Oh, I've seen that film. It was rubbish, wasn't it? It's just incredible the way you talk about how Qui-Gon's the only true Jedi and he still follows the way of the living force. And then you think like, oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you're right. Hang on. We are still talking about the same film, right? And it's just amazing how he can talk about it. And you think, yeah, you're right. He suddenly makes it sound like he suddenly elevates something you know's crap into thinking like, well, actually, maybe it's better than I thought it was. So that man knows his Star Wars onions.
God, Star Wars onions. There's and I have to say, a complete reboot of Airwolf. I mean, now you've said it, Phil.
I know. I was just thinking that. I was just thinking,
Yeah.
what could you do with Airwolf? now?
Surely it's been done. Everything else has been done.
I know. Well, they've
Reboot
tried.
So no
Airwolf.
modern Airwolf?
I think you could reboot Airwolf. I mean, the concept of
It'd be a drone, huh?
yeah, possibly, but that
No,
that would
helicopter.
would give more scope for the pilot to spend time
mean,
playing his cello
yeah.
and drinking.
A
I've gotta be
helicopter
honest,
which
though.
went faster because it used turbo boost is not something I think that would fly quite as well,
Well,
these days.
I think what would happen is the same that happened when the original aired, which is you would watch the theme tune and then change channel.
Yeah.
That's still the most expensive CD I've ever bought, Tom. £30 on the complete suite of music from Airwolf.
I love that Stringfellow
Worth
Hawk
it.
actually played an instrument. That was
Did you see that lady do the? She arranged it for 7 cellos, which she all played herself. And she did the Airwolf theme tune on 7 cellos. It was amazing, absolutely
Great.
fantastic.
Link in the description.
I'll stick it in the comments. So yeah, but yeah, I'm all for that. So
We were so close to finishing in an hour and a half.
no, I think we are.
Well,
We're
we've still got
22
No, we
minutes.
haven't done Tom and Cass's TV choices yet.
yeah, we've spent all
Oh,
the time.
Christ, that's another 30 minutes.
Well,
Jesus.
if you think about how much airtime we've given forged in fire over the years, and the
Right.
Abyss.
Yeah,
the
but
Edge
it's
is,
Elusive
look,
release
there
of
we
the
go.
Glass TV. It's Glass TV. Right. I just seen that cello girl
Yes,
turn up with the
unbelievable. It's well worth a watch. She has a good sensibility for 80s stuff. She's just Knight Rider as well. It's very good.
Right, Tom, you've got 60 seconds.
I don't need 60 seconds because Steve's taken mine, so thanks, Steve. But actually, because The Plot Against America was my number one, I can go straight to my number two. Not number two, but my second. Warrior Nun. Shut up, everybody! It's amazing. That is a TV show.
It's weirdly compelling.
That is right in my wheelhouse. It is like teenagers doing supernatural shit for 13 episodes. She gets a boyfriend and then he disappears.
Hang on, she's a nun, isn't she?
It's like Buffy 2020.
No, Steve. The main character of Warrior Nun is not a warrior nun. Why would you think that?
Because that's
She's
what
not
I
a
want to
warrior or a
see.
nun. Yeah.
I managed the last 5 minutes of Cursed before I thought this is as bad as Tom said it was and turned it off.
Yeah.
But she's got a radioactive discus in her back or something.
Yeah, she's got a halo in her back. Anyway, like a lot of people's complaints about it are like totally justified. Like if you don't like this sort of thing, you're gonna really hate it. But
if you've not got a boner for Catholic mythology, it's got some issues.
It's not even that. It's more just like, I don't know, like a slick script, teens goofing around, then they fight a monster. That's for me, you know.
How many thumbs? I don't know do scores, but thumbs will do. 17
or 18 thumbs up.
Excellent.
You what? I haven't seen it, but I disagree with that.
How dare you give it 18 thumbs up?
You're so woke, man.
Clearly, I haven't seen it, but it's clearly not 18 thumbs.
There's a worrying level of grade inflation going on about here. So,
right. So Tom had his 60 seconds. Kaz.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go with what I think is the best of the month, which is I May Destroy You. I think Michaela Cole's creation, written, directed by her, it's tremendous.
Because everyone keeps saying it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's hard hitting. It's acerbically witty. It's on the nose. It'll offend you and enlighten you. I mean, it's really
pretty hard to offend.
It's very good stuff.
Unless you give it a 10 out of 10, because I'm really pissed off.
I gave it a 9 to avoid any feedback. So.
Oh, you pussy! I'll give Kamaria credit. She doesn't give a monkey. She'll take it.
No, she doesn't.
On the chin and just give me what she wants to give it.
She will not go back and visit that thread once. So.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it in her case.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I hope that she gets touted around as much as Waller-Bridge gets touted around now, because she's really great. She's done a tremendous job in it. That's the best thing, I think. But a pleasant surprise was seeing, and it wasn't released as much, but Condor Season 1. Had to watch it to catch up to watch Season 2. I love 3 Days of the Condor. I think it's tremendous. Pollock film with Robert Redford. Fantastic 70s thriller. Why did they need to remake it? All that kind of hoo-ha. They did a great job. It's Homeland era spy shenanigans, very nicely done. A little bit like a TV show that got cancelled that I actually love called Rubicon. For any of the 5 people out there who've seen it, that was also tremendous.
That's why it got cancelled.
And yeah, it was. Yeah. And but my guilty pleasure is Transformers: War for Cybertron.
Now, you see, I
watched all 6 episodes with the kids. My daughter refused to watch it because initially she didn't believe that anyone in the show was going to be female. And she refuses to watch things where...
Aren't they robots?
Yes, I tried to explain it to her, but you can't get past that. They are voiced by males.
No, they're not robots.
Gender-specific robots? How dare they?
No, Steve, they're not. Stop saying robots. They're not robots. They are silicon-based life forms.
But she got on board because within seconds you've got Elisa 1, Archie, Moonracer, all of the female robots, and they kick all kinds of ass. It's tremendous. And I got my son Jetfire, and he was holding it the entire time, watching it.
You got your son Jetfire, or you got you Jetfire?
Well, I
let
like
your
to
son
say it was
occasionally
for me.
play with it.
I also gave my son My Jetfire.
No. It's the new one. It's the new one based on the show. It looks like Jetfire, which I actually had it in front of me, and he got all the best scenes. It looks fantastic in Dolby Vision. It's great for grown-ups who grew up with Transformers to see something better than the stuff that we put up with from Michael Bay for years. And
with the exception of Bumblebee.
Well, he didn't do that.
Which I suppose wasn't Michael Bay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the first, that prologue, that the bit in Bumblebee. It's like that turned into a Netflix TV show. So it's a lot of fun.
Is Jazz still a Porsche 911 like he was originally, or is he still?
Jazz wasn't in it.
Oh well, that's
I
disappointing.
don't remember Jazz being in it at all. And Jazz wasn't a Porsche 911. He was a flat nose.
Yes, that's still a Porsche 911.
Yes, it's
Jesus Christ.
Adult men, ladies and gentlemen, adult men.
And if you've enjoyed this podcast gold this evening, then please do hit that like button, people. It does help us. It means that more people will be trapped and find us.
I notice we've already got one thumbs down.
Yeah.
Hit the bell
Fair
and we
enough.
can get Ed a goat.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
can-
want to go.
We can continue making Transformers-based video podcasts.
Warrior nuns lobbed in for good measure.
And Tom will
Absolutely.
periodically give thumbs up at random.
We won't
Or
give
down,
any scores.
or none.
Yeah,
No scores,
sponsored
though.
by Forged in Fire.
I think it's Condo a 007 Dimensions thing I forgot, which I thoroughly enjoyed and binged in one night because it's quite short, which was Fear City, about the taking down the mob in New York in the 70s and 80s.
I saw an
which is
advert
great.
for that, yeah.
Also reminds you when you're watching it, what an absolute shithole
New York,
New York was in the 70s.
Can I
Well,
just
and-
say,
Right up
Phil
until
Sting,
Giuliani came in, really, it was still like.
Well, he's in it, and because it was his his team that brought them down. He was the DA at the time, but you should think I've forgotten he used to be a serious lawyer instead of an
Brexit, isn't
absolute
it?
joke that he is
Yeah.
these days.
just to clear something up, Phil Sting, start sober and then get tipsy towards the end of the podcast. I don't start sober. Can we be very clear about this? It's a Sunday.
You don't want a sober Ed. He's really boring.
No, you really, really, really don't want a sober Ed. We had 2 days of CES a sober Ed. We then plied them with as much beer as he could take.
And then I didn't get a chest inflection. Go me. Chest inflection? Yeah, wait.
Was it an
If
upward
we
chest
hadn't given
inflection
you
or a
beer,
downward
I'd have been
chest inflection?
swinging from that bloody fan that was dripping water on my bed all night long anyway. What a
Well,
fucking
there
awful
you go.
bloody-
No, that was a fan that was going round, not a fan of Steve.
A fan.
Steve doesn't
and
have any
light
fans.
fitting. No, not that I'm aware of. And if I did have a fan, it'd be like the one in Alan Partridge, when he goes around that guy's house.
Right, shall we call a halt to this increasing
done.
degenerate?
Yeah, when the drunk says it's done, then you know that it's time to.
what
I
I'm
am the
not
fat
interested
lady
in.
and I am singing.
Right.
Oh, podcast competition. Crap.
Yeah,
Yes.
Selley he's keeping us on track. Have you got a copy of the running order or something? Because every time it's like, have you done this? Have you done that? Podcast competition.
Thanks, Dad.
You can win a copy of Dr. Sleep on Blu-ray. To enter the competition, use the following question to select the correct answer. Who wrote the source book Dr. Sleep?
Oh, I know that.
Oh,
Everyone knows it, but if you don't know the question, you can't pick the right answer. So there you go.
Yeah, it's very, very. It's not clever, but
No.
anyway, you can go and enter that competition. Good luck. I believe it's a half decent film. Haven't seen it yet, but
It's
okay.
tremendous, absolutely tremendous. Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
yeah. Some people even shockingly prefer it to The Shining.
Well, they're wrong.
Oh,
but
no,
it's
hang
quite
on.
good.
It's not that good.
Yeah, some people do. Some people have given that.
Yeah,
feedback.
Stephen King might
I don't-
prefer it to The Shining.
I don't agree with it, but I mean, I do love it for different reasons. It's like
Don't-
Blade
don't-
Runner.
don't-
They're like
we
the
were
Blade
so
Runner.
we were so close to calling halt on this.
No, we
ready to go.
weren't.
Got
No
my
way.
quote lined up. Let's do
Okay.
We
this.
can have another half-hour discussion on Rose the Hat, if you like.
Episode 43 of Air Crash Investigators.
Yeah,
Sweet.
what's
Investigation.
What's coming up next week on Forged in Fire? That's what I want to know.
Talking about next week. Next week is the last podcast before we take our summer holiday. We're taking 2 weeks off. So we are here next week. That's the 9th of August. Then we're going to take our summer holiday, and then we're back for the end of the month. So that's what's happening in August. That's it for the podcast this week. Thank God. My thanks to Steve Withers.
Usul, we have worm sign, the like of which even God has never seen.
And Selley.
Stop your speaking.
Kaz Harlow.
Walk without rhythm and we won't attract the worm.
And Tom Davies.
My name is a killing word.
If you enjoyed the podcast, please give us a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are informed every time we publish new video content on our channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark avforums.com for latest reviews, news, and video. Plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you've enjoyed the show. If you haven't enjoyed the show, don't bother. That's it. Thanks very much. I'm Phil Hinton. We'll see you again next week.